Hey guys, what's going on? It's Vic here, back with another Madden 21 video. And in today's episode, we're getting into EA's update, boys. That's right, EA's update finally came out with it. I know I'm a little late to jump the gun on this. I don't know if that's the correct wording, but I think it's been since November since the last update. And also, this is going to be the last update on Madden 21. I believe it may be just for franchise, but it could be for the entire game. Also, there was a leak to the Madden 22 franchise where we're supposed to get offensive and defensive coordinators with head coaches as well. So I believe there may be some new roles than just owner, coach, and player as well. And if they're going to do this, I doubt they'll add quarterback coaches, running back coaches, wide receiver coaches, specific coaches for specific positions. I doubt they will add that, which I don't really want necessarily for each coach and to manage all of that. And if it was going to be that way, I'm pretty sure you would have to be the role of an owner and not the coach. I believe if you turn to the head coach like I am right now, then you won't have to deal with all those positions. But if they are going to make that, one thing I ask is just to fix simulation. I can't go 9-7 again and have the best overall team. It pisses me off. I have perfect schemes. I run the best playbooks according to the internet and according to YouTubers. And then I have like a 91 overall team, aka the highest overall team in the entire league, and I'll go 9-7 and miss the playoffs. They finally updated their rosters, which is a big part of it, because I hated going to share files and having to constantly re-download stuff to get it correctly, where Jared Goff is on the Lions and Matthew Stafford is on the Rams. So they finally got that right as well. Now, the retirements tab was extremely useful in my opinion. I still think it's useful because I don't want to be able to look at my team and forget which players are retired or what I'm missing on the team or feel like I'm missing something. That was a useful update. Definitely liked it. Now they're adding a league history update, but this is just for whenever you start the league. So I just simulated from the start of the season in 2020, and it'll tell you who won all the yearly awards for this. It's just a quick recap of the season. See 2020 season recap in the top left corner there. It's really honestly great to see that. It's a really useful feature to go over the years, but it doesn't show you previous years, which I'm completely okay with. It doesn't matter previous years because this is your franchise. You obviously know who won in previous years. Some of you may not, but I still think this is a relatively solid tab, but I don't think it's an insanely amazing one either. But the biggest thing out of all of this update, I really hope they fix simulation, but they didn't do that. Instead, they focused on tweaking the trades. And this is a good and bad thing for me. Number one, good because finally we have trade logic. Bad, I literally started a series on the easiest players to trade for, and they haven't fixed trade logic in probably like 4 years, and it sucks. They said they tweaked it, but they've never tweaked it in the past 4 years, and people are finally saying that they tweaked it relatively correctly. And I've been making a series on the easiest players to trade for. So I'm going to test that theory today and see if it's still possible. Now, Julio Jones. I traded away Malik Jackson, Javon Hargrave, and a third-round pick, and I got Julio Jones in my easiest wide receivers to trade for. So I'm going to be trying that today, and I'm going to switch over to the Eagles and see if I can still make that trade. I'm actually going to put this in the exact order that I had it in my video. So the order it went in was Malik Jackson, Javon Hargrave, and a third-round pick, and we can get Julio Jones. And for now, apparently Malik Jackson, the Falcons don't have interest for it after this update. So I guess they did actually improve the trade logic, because who would want a 76 overall aging defensive tackle like Malik Jackson? I don't think not very many people. Now let's see if this will go through. Would you look at that? They said they updated trade logic. This is horrible. It only got declined because Malik Jackson is not interested anymore. They don't have an interest in him anymore. So now, let's try something else. Let's try Jared McCoy. Oh, they don't have interest for him either. Wow, so I guess they are valuing younger players now. So I guess they did a relatively solid job with that. Vinny Curry, do they value him at all? No, let's try Brandon Graham. Aging. Oh, wow, so old players do not have almost any value anymore. That was left end was the top need for the Falcons. Derek Barnett, let's try this. So, Javon Hargrave and Derek Barnett. Okay, trade logic got worse. Okay, they did a terrible job with this. So, before this happened, Javon Hargrave. So this might actually make my series a little bit better. Now that I see this. Javon Hargrave and Derek Barnett. An 80 overall and a 76 overall for Julio Jones. So I'm assuming they made age the most valuable thing over overall. So it's better to have a 24-year-old 76 overall than it is to have a 30-year-old who is an 85 overall, is what I'm assuming from this trade logic update. So I guess they're valuing age much more over the overall itself. So in the easiest wide receivers to trade for video, I traded Malik Jackson, 76 overall, 30-year-old normal development defensive tackle, and I traded away an 80 overall Javon Hargrave, the one I have here, and a 3rd round pick to get Julio Jones. Now I just have to trade away a 76 overall and 80 overall, no 3rd round pick. You can probably pick up someone from free agency and move them to a defensive end or defensive tackle who is a relatively decent age and still get Julio Jones. So it doesn't look like the trade logic got easier for Julio Jones. It looks like it got a lot harder. Not harder. It looks like it got a lot harder for the Falcons to keep Julio Jones is what I should say, and it makes it a lot easier for the player. So that's really crummy. I'm going to try some other things. I heard quarterbacks were valued a little bit differently as well, but Julio Jones is easier to get than he was before. That is stupid. So, boys, I was actually wrong before. I guess they didn't completely update their rosters because Carson Wentz is still on the Eagles for some reason, and they just updated a couple players, such as Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Why don't you update the entire thing while you're at it? Why do you bother just with a few players? Okay, that's pissing me off already. So, the first tab, my first impression of this was it was going to be relatively good based on the previous trades I saw, but seeing that Julio Jones is easier to trade for and they didn't even take this simple time to switch Carson Wentz over to their official roster from the Carson Wentz to the Colts, that shows how lazy they are. Okay, so Deshaun Watson looks relatively easier to trade for now. So I guess they did change up the trade logic for QBs, because before this, if you offered 3 first-round picks, like pick number 1 overall, pick number 2 overall, and pick number 3 overall, it wouldn't even be close. It'd be about at the same trade interest level that it is right now. But since having 2 pick number 20s for this year and next year, it's gotten a little bit easier, I think. But still, trading for a quarterback should be relatively hard. I think this actually makes it a little bit better in terms of quarterback, but trading for Julio Jones that easily still makes me mad. And again, I am in 2020. I'm not in 2021. He has not aged, so it should be harder for him to trade after this trade update. But I like this. I like this a lot better. Obviously, I don't think 2 first-round picks for a stud superstar, young and 90 overall quarterback should go through, because I would trade for this literally every single time in one of my rebuilds. I'd trade easily 2 first-round picks away. Like, they're absolutely nothing. 2 first-round picks seems relatively solid for someone that is dying to get out of Houston, but obviously I wouldn't take that into account for the Madden trade logic system. So they're actually doing a relatively good job with this. I don't think it should be impossible to trade for any player unless it's someone like Patrick Mahomes. That should be an untradeable player. Or someone like Aaron Donald. That should be an untradeable player. Unless they're whining about it and want to leave that certain area. I think it should be, every player should be tradable. And also on top of that, I need more slots. Yeah, you can't just give me 3 slots. That makes me mad as well. So let's see if we can try and get Deshaun Watson. So I have switched over to the Washington football team, and usually whenever you offer a first round pick from next year, it only has yellow interest. But now, since you have a higher pick from next year, it still has green interest, which is actually a pretty cool thing, I think. Now let's try to trade this. Wow, that was surprising. I probably should have offered less, but we can actually trade for a quarterback now, and this would be a trade that I would do literally any day. I would not care, because I would not find a quarterback of this much of a stud. Like, I would definitely want to do this in one of my fantasy rebuilds, and I would love to hear the 8-year-olds cry in my comments and bawl their eyes out about how unrealistic this is. I do not care. This is cool. Trading for QBs is a lot more logical now than being like, if I traded this before, it would still be in the red trade interest. So this is definitely cooler. I'm still ticked off about the Julio Jones one though. I'm trading away an 80 defensive tackle and 76 overall defensive end. Now, I definitely see the age thing here. Now, if I go here and go into my team. Let's find an older player here. Only 76 overall with normal development. His trade value has gone down. I used to be able to trade this guy for like a first round pick so many times, but now the trade logic is actually logical, saying, wow, nobody wants this guy. He's actually really bad, because in real life, nobody would really want these guys at all, and I can definitely see this happening. I can definitely see all these normal development players who are aging, aren't going to be good. Maybe a moderate interest C for tight end for some teams, because he is only 29 years old. Maybe he could progress into a little bit, but he would be a short-term player. Now let's see what we could get for him. What kind of draft picks could we get for this guy? Usually I'd be able to get like a third-round pick for him. Is that still a possibility? Almost, since the Jets are a lower team. So I could get a third-round pick, but in real life, trading an aging tight end, normal development, 77 overall, I think I would realistically be able to get, at the very most, if the team was stupid, a fourth, maybe a fifth. Like a fifth, maybe a fourth, maybe, very maybe a fourth. So the trade logic system is still, minor tweaking is needed. Just minor tweaking, such as like the Julio Jones thing. But I think they've relatively got this down pretty well. I hate to say this, but I'm gonna congratulate EA on this update. That Julio Jones thing is still gonna piss me off, that how easy it was to do that. It was easier than it was in my actual video to trade for him, in my easiest receivers to trade for video. It was relatively insane. Now I'm highly sure that they are most definitely valuing age over anything else. And I want to put that to the test again by trading for Harrison Smith. So something I have just found out is first round picks are much more valued in terms of trading away. I don't know about coming in though. I will do an experiment on that in a second. But if you see here, I almost get Harrison Smith for straight up a first round pick. So that is definitely more valued than it was before, which is actually a big thing to note. But before, I feel like I could maybe get in the light green, not the dark green trade interest level, if you know what I mean by that. But before, I was able to trade a 73 overall defensive back and a 76 overall defensive back, and I'd be able to easily get Harrison Smith. But that's not the case this time. This is a little different. Now, this will screw up some of my series, I guess, so I'll have to make some updates to it. But before, I was able to trade a 76 overall aging defensive back and a 73 overall aging defensive back, I believe. And now I have to trade a 76 overall young star development defensive end, a young star development 79 overall right guard, and a third round pick just to get Harrison Smith. But Julio Jones was easier, but Harrison Smith is now harder to get. I believe his Julio Jones is 31 or 32 years old. Harrison Smith is 31 years old. Let me go over to the Eagles and see Julio Jones real quick. Yeah, Julio Jones is the same age, but they didn't tweak it the same way. So I guess the trade system also is valued based on position, and it looks like wide receivers are easier to trade for than defensive positions such as safety. This is a very interesting update, is what I can say. I need you to let me know if you guys want me to restart the series, like easiest wide receivers to trade for, but the updated version. It would definitely be helpful, definitely be noted as well. But anyways, guys, other than that, I think I'm going to have to change my trade system thing to outdated. I would have to put that in parentheses. Out of 100, I would say I'm going to give this update a B-. I'm going to give it a B- and give it around like an 83 out of 100. That's what I'm going to give it. The league history, it's not I don't know who asked for that. I don't know who asked for it, but I guess it's a relatively useful thing. I know I didn't ask for it. I wasn't thinking of it. I was thinking more along the lines of I want to create my own team. I want to create my own logo. I want to create my own jerseys. We used to have Create a Fan. I wanted that. We didn't get that. Of course, EA finally updates their trade logic as soon as I start making these videos. It's been like 4 years. Anyways, guys, enough of me complaining. I'll see you guys all in the next one.